Hi, Julie Torrance here. So, I want to work on some watercolor Christmas cards. I've got my paints, my Daniel Smith watercolor paints. I've got two water bins. I've got just a handful of brushes, paper towels, and what I'm going to do is I buy these. These are pre-made, pre-cut blank cards, and I buy them in packs of 50. This one happened to be Darcy. I don't always get Darcy, but I just buy a set of 50, and then when they're this craft card color, I just think they go with so many things. So that's what I'm going to be mounting these on. Now those are 5 by 7. The cards themselves are 5 by 7. So I cut this 4.5 by 6.5. So that's the paper. And then I buy very, very inexpensive off of Amazon washi tape that has a grid. And that helps me when I'm doing watercolor to get my watercolor paper mounted straight and the tape is straight because I like that kind of an edge. So, and I'm just mounting it on food packaging. There's nothing fancy going on here at all. So this is kind of a dry technique to wet. Normally we work wet to dry, kind of wet and then put details in with dry. And I want to kind of, if I can arrange this so you can at least see it somewhat. Can I do it this way maybe? I think so. And you can still see. All right. Then I've got my metallics. And, you know, Christmas, we want some sparkle. So I've got that. I know you can't see all these paints, but they're here. This is just plain water, and I put it in a hair product bottle because it gives me a nice fine mist. I don't care what kind of metallics you have. It seems like they all need activating. I'm going to just give my Daniel Smiths a little bit of activating. Have some paper towels handy and let's get going. So we're going to start out dry. I'm going to take what I would call a medium brush. Medium to small. This one is a number 4. This one's a number 6 round. I think I'll go with the 6 round. And I'm going to start out with this painting making evergreens. Now, I'm going to show you. I normally will take paint, put it in here, add a lot of water. We're not going to do that this time. We want this to be heavier. I'm going to start with that green, whatever we've got there, and I'm just going to go into the yellow. This is called cadmium yellow. I'm not sure if you can see that, but I want to have a lighter green because these are going to be in the furthest background. And now I'm going into this apatite green. And that looks about right. But I do not want this watery. So I'm going to even add some more of this green. I still think we're light enough. Okay. So I'm going to start out in the way back. And we're not going to have a whole lot of sky going on here. And the way I like to make evergreens, I'm just going to make a straight line down. And these are far. So there's not going to be a lot of detail at all. And some of this is even going to be covered up. That's okay. They don't have to be perfect. Just get some kind of triangular shape dealies on here and kind of, you know, haphazard, doesn't matter. Just like this. A couple more. Can you see that I'm not concentrating or just, laboring over this. I'm just kind of getting some shapes on. And this is row 1. And this paint is rather dry. I haven't dunked into the water. I'm just using the paint out of that pan. And the paint has kind of lost its luminosity. It's not letting a lot of the white paper show through it, and that's fine. Okay. This is going to be one of those kind of push-pull situations. All right, good. Rinsing my brush out. Now I'm going to go into kind of a medium green. So I'm going to use this well that I already have with green. I'm going into serpentine green. This is a granulating color, so it will break apart as it dries, and you'll see some little bits of brown with it. I want to make sure I'm going in the right one. And I'm going to just I'm trying to push as much of the pigment off of my brush as I can before I rinse it. And now I'm going back to that yellow. And this is going to be our second row. So now I'm going to go, it's quite a bit the same. It's all right. I'm going to add a little more yellow. And I'm going to add some Cascade green, which is even a darker green. Almost like it's got a little bit of phthalo in it. But don't go by me. I'm not saying that it does. I didn't want to add more water to this. All right. Now, it's too wet. I'm just going to take the water off of my brush. Again, I'm not looking for a lot of detail. I'm going to dry my brush again because what's happening is water's coming down from the belly of the brush. So are you doing well? Oh, I'm missing a light. I just saw that shadow in there. Is that better? Hope so. It is snowing like crazy here. Well, I guess it makes it sound like a blizzard, and it's not that at all, but it's been snowing on and off all day. I guess really, snowing like crazy. I was thinking more because it's been on and off all day. It's about 2 o'clock in the afternoon right now. And we've got that heavy gray sky that you get when you get a snowy day. Still not working with a whole lot of detail at all. This one's a little bit closer. And maybe there's going to be a gap in the trees. And I'll make one even closer. Making a little bit more detail to this one because it's a little bit closer. Yeah, I'm concentrating, so I'm getting quiet. I'm sorry. The idea is supposed to be that you're having someone to watercolor with, and I'm sure not much company, am I, if I'm going to be silent like that? I'm just making a line and then short, 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 short. Yep, just like that. All right, now I'm gonna go with my darkest green. So I'm gonna use that Cascade green that we had. And there's some kind of a red color in here. I don't care. There's not much. It's not gonna do anything. But the Cascade green is dark. And to this, I'm going to add some ultramarine blue. That's going to kind of make it a little bit blue sprucey. And I'm going to add some hematite, which is kind of a black, kind of a gray. Now I'm going back into that Cascade green. I think we've got enough paint. I want a decent amount of paint in this little well. But if I have to mix more, it's not a big deal. I'm just going to dry my brush, but I didn't put it in the water. And now I'm going to make some bigger trees right here. Line, line, little lines. How's that looking to you? Is it looking like an evergreen? Right off the paper. I'm getting a little bit of a dry brush look. That's fine, that's good. Okay. I'm just leaning back so I can kind of get the idea of what I've got as far as a shape going here. And I'm just putting some pine needles right along the trunk because there's going to be branches coming off of there coming right at us. All right. And let's get another one like that. Oh, I put it in the water. That was dumb. I'm going to get some more of that Cascade green. And let's get a big tree here. So, are you making holiday cards this year? Christmas cards or happy winter cards or whatever you like to do this time of year? Season's greetings. Now, these are not horticulturally perfect at all. And they're not meant to be. It's a suggestion. Some more paint. The heat is going. It's about 17 degrees outside, really cold. So the heat's on, so that's making my paint want to dry all the faster. But I don't want to add water if I can avoid it. I'm just going to go straight into the paint. Okay. Good. All right. I am going to add water because this little tray is completely dry. But I'm adding as little water as I can get away with just so the paint will move. So it is, like I said, about 17 degrees, which is very cold. And we had a breeze, but that seems to have kind of died down a little bit. But the furnace has certainly had a workout today. That's okay. This is Grand Rapids. This is Western Michigan. This is what we do. Frankly, it's late. We normally have had this type of a snow already. But the way they're talking, they just don't think we're going to get as much snow this year as we're used to. Okay. All right, I'm liking those real well. I think they look good. Okay, I'm going to add right here some ultramarine blue. And I'm just going to pick up some of this, very little, going into the ultramarine blue. And I just want to add a little bit of a snow line here and there. Okay. And then I'm going to add just a touch. I'm going into that gray, well, that hematite, mixing it in with this ultramarine. Ultramarine is usually a very granulating color. And I'm just going to add very little, way at the tippy top, some dark gray. All right, now, over here in my pan, I have white gouache. I am going to start to activate it. Now, white gouache is white watercolor, but it is designed to be opaque, not transparent. Sometimes you have what they call a mixing white, which you can lighten colors without taking away their transparency. This isn't it. And I'm just getting it started now because we're going to use it in a little bit, but I just kind of want to get it activated and going. Okay, I'm rinsing that completely off my brush, and I'm going to take a big brush. This is a number 16 round. I'm going into the clean water. I have those two bins, and now I'm just going to start blurring. I can always add more water, but I don't want to add too much. But it's just going to be like a misty blurry. See the paint? That's why I didn't want the paint to be real wet and watery, because I knew we would be doing this. And it's a technique I learned a long time ago, but I think it's just so pretty. And I want this green to go way up. And I'm using a lot of water here. The blue is not moving as much as I wish it would, but that's okay. Now I'm going to do the top. Because I want that gray to move down, which it did. which I like. All right. Now that it's nice and wet and juicy and pretty, I am going in with a flat brush. I am going to go into the white gouache, both the pan and the lid. I pretty well got it all off of the lid because I want this to be, I want to have a lot of paint on my brush. And I'm going to start splattering it. And it's going to spread and move. And that's going to be our faraway snowflakes. Go in some more with no water. May have to add just a touch. That's nice. Okay, good. We're going to let that set aside. Now, you tell me you can't do that. That is so easy, so easy. You know what I'm going to do? I have these shimmery colors right here. This is upside down. And this one is a shimmery green. This one is kind of a shimmery blue. And I'm going to get some of that on my brush. And we're going to do this again. And this is going to give us more of some shimmery spots, but not white dots. Okay. All right, we're going to set this aside. I'm going to try not to tip it around too much. And we're going to start on another one. Okay. Isn't this fun? And you know what I did was not hard. It was not hard. All right. I want, where is the round brush I was using? Which one? This one was the number 6. And I thought I had, this was the 4. Yeah, okay. So I got the right one. Same idea. I'm just going to go into, but now I'm not quite as concerned about like high green, low green. I'm going to start out with yellow for this one. All right. And I'm going to make green from the Christmas tree coming this way. All right. So I'm going to just start out with a couple of these. What would you call them? Like boughs? I never remember the right name for that. And I'm just going to add some needles. And sometimes they have a little one coming out like this. But again, I'm working fairly dry. I'm just getting needles. More yellow. We want some needles coming right in from the edge here. You can even have some coming in like that. All right. Now I'm going to go with what I would consider the lightest of the greens that I was using. And I'm going back into the serpentine. Because again, I don't want this too wet. I don't want it too wet at all. And I'm just going to kind of repeat what I just did. I just went straight into the serpentine. Now, if the paint's really dry because of the heat. See, I'm still getting kind of a dry brush look even though I dipped into water. So you're just going to have to gauge it, but you want this dry. You don't want shiny puddles. Because all you'll do is when you put the water on top, it's just going to mix up and vanish. You're just going to have probably something real pretty, but I don't think it's going to be the look that you might be going for. Normally when I'm doing watercolor with you, I have, I'm going into the Cascade Green. I have like so much water going on the paper that all I see is a water shine. I don't even always see what I'm painting. Not this time, which is good. I mean, it's just telling me that I'm keeping it dry. Okay, this is my third green and this is my darkest green now. And this is the way I like to do evergreen when it's close up. I like multiple colors because I think that's how they look. You've got some, and normally I would use a little bit of brown, but I don't want brown because we're going to be mixing other colors in with all this, and the chance of making brown by accident is enough. So I'm just sticking with the green and the yellow, but not brown. That's why when I do this, I don't usually make pine cones because it's too much brown. And maybe if you're just a much better watercolorist than me, you can handle that no problem, but I haven't figured it out yet. Needles, needles, needles. Do you have a real Christmas tree or artificial or none at all? Or maybe one of those cool ceramic trees that has the little globes of lights that's lit by a light bulb that's inside? I think those are really cool. Very retro, but I love them. All right, now I'm just going to take this same dark green and I am going to add just a couple branches without all those multiple colors. Not too many, just maybe a few. I think it adds some depth. Okay, good. Now, I'm going to do a little bit of lifting. So I'm taking my big brush. I've got some paper towels to the side here that I haven't been using to dry my brushes. And I'm just going to grab a piece of that. And I want to lift a circle. Now, will I lift all the paint? No, but a good amount. And what's left, we're just going to consider reflection. Okay, now I'm going to grab, I don't want any puddles, all right? I'm going to take the brush I was using. Why am I having such a hard time figuring out what brush I'm using? I don't know. Here it is. Here it is. All right. I'm picking up a red. And I want it to be a cool red, so this is going to be quinacridone rose, but it's red. Ready, red, red. And you've seen this design 1,000 times. The green tree with the red ball. And we'll have a little light coming. So I'm just not going to fill that in quite all the way. And I'm still working pretty dry. All right. Good. All right, now I'm going to start that wet technique again. Using my big 16, I'm going into the clean water, but I'm not going to touch the red ball, okay? So here we go. If I'm starting to scrub, I don't have enough water. So I want this to just be laying water on and moving paint. And as I said, whoop, got into the red. That's okay. I'm just going to pick it up. It's all right. Because I want the red to spread, but I just don't want to make brown. Okay. Now, I'm going to go ahead and start working the red. Just a little. And I'm even going to put some up here. But when it starts making brown, pick it up. There's a little bit of red there, a little splash of red here and here. And I love the blurriness of it. Great. All right. Into the white. And this has been activated now even longer, so I should be able to pick up even more. And here we go. And this is kind of like the Christmas lights. Okay, now I'm going to set this one aside. I love what it's doing in here. Okay, now I think we have time for one more because we are coming back to these. Okay, how about I'm going to make some holly down here with a candle coming up. So I think I'm going to start out with the candle, and I think we'll make it, is a red candle going to be too much? Not necessarily. I'm going in with the same red that we used before, the Quin Rose. And I'm just going to make a basic candle shape. And I'm not even going to fill it in. All right, back to that brush that I never can find. It's the number 6. And I don't care this time, light to dark to whatever. I'm going into the Cascade Green. I just want it dry. And if it's not perfectly filled in, it doesn't matter. Because now you know what we're going to do to it. I'm going to blur the daylights out of it. So let's get another Cascade green one. I'm going to be turning this as best I can because I want to get different angles. So I don't think, well, I know. Why do I say I don't think? I'm not going to have a Christmas tree this year. I didn't have one last year. My place is just too small. Now, I have a beautiful balcony, and I've got outdoor Christmas lights on it. And if I had a balcony, I'm going into the serpentine green. If I had a balcony that had a plug out there, I would do more, including maybe have a Christmas tree out there. I've done that before on balconies where I just put a Christmas tree outside and decorate it with things like popcorn strings and cranberries, and the birds just love it. But there's no plug out there, and I would have to have my patio door open, and I would lose so much heat that it's just not a viable thing for me to do this year. But I don't miss not having a Christmas tree because I put other decorations up. And I've got my lights outside, which is right here by where I'm sitting and in my living room. So I can sit there and drink a cup of tea and look at my Christmas lights, and I just love it. I'm just taking the ever so slightly dipping into the, and I'm going to go over the red, dipping into the water just so that my brush will pick up some of this pigment. And I am kind of scrubbing here because I'm kind of scrubbing out the red. That's why I didn't want to fill it in. But that's fine. Okay, keep going. A little less talk and a lot more action. This is that green serpentine. Oh, this is so dry. It's not moving. Of course, this is a little too wet, but that's all right. That's okay. Now I'm gonna, where's another green? I know I've got more. This one, what is this? Oops. I went into the next well over while I was trying to, jadeite. That's a semi-precious stone. Jadeite. Can you see how dry this is? I hope you can. I'm counting on some water coming down from the belly of the brush to give me a little, there it comes. Give me a little movement here. Okay. I'm going to go back to that jadeite. A few more. Okay. It's the tip. Back into the jadeite. I'm just going to fill in with some green here. Make a point like a leaf, but it's all behind. I bet this looks really rudimentary to you, but I'm just getting shapes and colors. That's my goal here. Okay, now taking a smaller brush, I'm going to use the Cad Red Medium Hue. So hue means it doesn't have real cadmium in it. And that's supposed to be kind of a safety thing because cadmium does so dry. Cadmium is a poison, but it's really only a poison if you breathe it in. So like if maybe you were doing airbrushing or something like that. So there's our 3 berries. And let's put in maybe a couple more. I'm going as dry as I can, folks. It's a weird feeling to have the paint be so draggy. It's like I'm using a marker that's running dry. That's what it feels like. Okay. I am going to fill in now. Let me get a bigger brush. I'm going to fill in the candle. Again, I am going to try to go very dry. Just rounding up the edges just a little bit. Candles aren't just straight up and down like a log. Just a tiny bit of water. See, that green is dry enough that I'm not getting a lot of wicking in or charging, whatever you're used to calling it, blossoming. Okay. Now we need some kind of a flame, right? I'm going to start with the cadmium, this cadmium medium hue, and I'm just going to give it that much. And now I'm going to go into my cadmium yellow, and I'm putting it over here where I had that white gouache. And I'm going to get some more white gouache. I'm contaminating my white gouache with yellow. That's all right. That looks good to me. Yep, that looks like a flame. Okay, here we go. Taking my big number 16 into the water. I'm going to start out with the green, but I'm going to avoid red. So I'm going to avoid the berries, and I'm avoiding the candle. Oh, I got into the red, so I'm just rinsing. Bring it all the way down to the bottom. Good. I'm just going to leave the red alone for right now down there. I'm going to go ahead and start with the candle here. Using more water than I had. And I am giving it one touch where the two will blur. And I know that my flame is going to be pretty darn wet yet. So I'm rinse, rinse, rinse. And I'm going over the flame now, just to give it a little help. Okay, now we're gonna let this one dry. And let's see if we can pick up the first one. I think we can. There we go. Ooh, the sparkle. I'm gonna see, can you see the sparkle? I think the sparkle is so nice. Okay, now I am taking my number 4 round, and I'm going into one of these golds. I don't know the names of these, and this paint isn't available anymore. It was from American Crafts, and it was paper fashion, and I do not believe they make it anymore, or if they do, I don't know where. Haven't even seen it on Amazon. All right, now I'm going to pick a tree, this one, and I'm going to start putting some gold balls on it. See, this is when we can add just a little bit of detail. Larger ornaments at the bottom, smaller ornaments at the top, towards the top. Now tell me you don't think this is a pretty Christmas card. I think it is. And I wish you could see what I can see with this shimmer. Oh, that looks nice. Yep. Okay, now I've got a different gold, and it's right here. I'm going to take some of this gold, and I've got a yellow shimmer right here. And I'm going to mix the two. More gold. And I'm just gonna want to dry my brush a bit. Okay, I'm gonna just make some kind of a little star. It still looks like the same color, that's okay. There. I think it's gonna get a ball right there. There. I think that looks great. Now, I want to do the white one more time. Wet brush. So I've got my flat brush going into the white gouache. Now you could get your setup and go acrylic. You know I do not like mixing acrylic and watercolor, so I'm not gonna. But this is pretty dry, so this should just pretty much be white dots now. I can feel them going on my hand, so They're going somewhere. Okay. All right, we're going to let that dry. I'm rinsing my brush out here from the white. Oh, that's cute. All right, we're just going to let that dry. And I'm going to bring up the red Christmas ball. Oh, that looks sweet. All right, now I'm going to go back to that number 4 round, going in the gold. And I'm just going to make one of those toppers. Like that. And I'm going to go into my white gouache. And I'm going to just give it a swipe and a swipe. And that's it. Let it be kind of reflecty. And I'm going to go into the shimmer color that I used before. And I'm going to put some shimmer on this one. You know, before I do this, so it won't go to waste, I am going to take this finer brush. This is my Simply Simmons. And like I said, this is kind of one of those push-pull situations. I'm going into the Cascade Green, which was the darkest of the greens that I have. And I'm going to add back in just here and there because the yellow is just shining out at me a little too much. See, like in here? Just a little bit. And I am not going back in with the water. So I don't have to be working as dry. And I'm not going everywhere, but just where it seems like the yellow took over too much. And why did it do that today? You know, is it because some of these paints are reacting different because the heat's on? You know what I mean? Like the yellow was still quite liquidy maybe? I don't know. This is one of the things with watercolor. Okay. I like that better. All right, now back to my original thought of putting in the shimmer. It adds so much. Now the shimmers, they look more clear until they're dry and the water sinks into the paper and the shimmer hangs out on top. So it always looks more when it's dry. Now I'm going into my gouache. Same thing. And there. Good. I love it. All right. We'll set this one aside. And now we've got our candle. Now our candle hasn't had as much time to dry as the others have. But I think we'll be okay. We've got a great big blossom here. And I am going to rub that out a bit. Can even use my flat brush. I won't be able to get rid of the whole thing, but it'll soften it. And I still like it. Okay, I'm going to go into my yellow, and I'm just going to brighten up around the candle a little bit. And now I'm going to push it out. Again, we've got a real strong blossom in there. Okay, now I'm going to go into these red, but I want them to bleed a little, but they really haven't had quite enough time to dry. That's all right. I'm going to go into the green and just give it a little bit of green where there was like quite a white spot here. This one may need a little more tweaking and massaging, and that's okay. I'm liking it, and I'm liking it better now that we've got the red berries blurry. I'm just getting rid of, if I can, some real strong puddles. Anywhere that I see water just standing, because that's what makes those blossoms, which I don't necessarily mind, but I like right in here where the green met the red, I think that's fine. But that big line right through there, that wasn't my favorite. As a matter of fact, I might just add a smidgen of a very watery red, and that'll help that also. Yeah. Very good, very good. Okay, this has to dry more because I want to fix the flame a little bit more and maybe add something to the candle itself. I think what I'm going to do for some something right now is I'm going to go into, let's see, I'm going to go into this color, the Quin Rose, but I'm moving it over here. And then I'm going into that shimmer color that I used all along, and I'm mixing them. And I've contaminated the paint a little bit, and it really doesn't matter. And I'm just going to add like this shimmer at the top, and then just a little bit going down. Good. And I have a yellow shimmer that I'm going to go into. And I'm just going to go over my flame. Good. Okay. Okay. I'm liking this. I didn't not like it. I'm just liking it more. I'm going to get the pink out of my paint there. Tenacious. All right. Now, going into there. Brush is a little too wet. There we go. This one's going to have a whole different look than the other two, and I'm liking it. I'm liking it a lot. Okay, let's let this one sit. And I probably won't even be able to pull the tape on this one. We'll see. But let's go after the other ones. I'm going to move these out of the way. All right, let's see what this one's going to give us. Any standing water I want to pick up from the tape. Now, if your tape is just way too sticky, then you may have to use a heat gun on it, and that will soften the adhesive. There we go. Now, I've seen people just rip this off. I go gentle. And as I say, this washi works really well for me. And you can see the cereal box worked just fine. Okay, now let's grab, hang on. Let's grab one of these. Fairly dry here. Bone folder. Now, I'm not going to mount this now because it is too wet. But what do you think? You have to let me know in the comments. I love it. When it's dry, I'm signing it, and this is going in the mail. I love it. Okay, can you see the shimmer? It's pretty, all right? And let's get our Christmas ball. Oh boy, I almost had that one too far away. I'm just grabbing that same card base. All right, let's get any stray water. I think we're good. Now, I'm just going to leave it because even if it's a waterproof pen, it could bleed. But when this is dry, I am going to just go in maybe with a white jelly roll and just put a few little details on that hanger. But other than that, I'm leaving it alone. But if you see it in a photograph and you think, hey, wait a minute. No, I'm not trying to jazz it up after the video's over, I promise. All right, let's see if we can get this off. I think we're doing really good with the tape. That's another one. I mean, one day this tape works like magic. Another time it bleeds underneath. Another time it rips my paper all to shreds. But for the most part, and I would say more than 95% of the time, this particular tape that I bought, and it came with like 15 rolls, is working just fine for me. People use masking tape, people use low tack tape, people use painter's tape. Use what works for you, because it could be your climate, it could be the heat system you have, it could be the air conditioning, whatever. All right, let's just take a look. Look. Oh, I think she came out beautiful. All righty, well, I hope that you maybe learned a little something. Maybe you're going to get brave and give this a try, but I think this is beautiful. I think it's fun. I hope that you enjoyed it as much as I did. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. If you're not subscribed, today's the day. Please hit the subscribe. I will see you all in another video. Bye now.